The kitchen smelled faintly of oranges, the sunlight filtering softly through the curtains. I was setting the glasses on the table when he walked in, his face calm, but his eyes betraying an unspoken tension. "Is the juice good?" he asked, his voice casual, but I caught the slight tremor in his hand as he reached for the glass. Before I could answer, his mother stepped forward, her frail fingers brushing mine as she picked up the glass and took a sip. The moment the liquid touched her lips, the expression on her face changed. There was a flicker of surprise, almost delight, and then nothing. He froze. His hand hovered over his own glass. "Wait, what did you just—" Her smile widened, unnerving in its subtlety. "It's lovely," she said, setting the glass down, her voice too calm, too rehearsed. I could feel the tension crackling in the air like static electricity. I didn't understand it at the moment, but instinct whispered that something was off. My husband's eyes darted between me and his mother, a shadow of panic creeping over his face. "What did you put in it?" he asked, his voice sharper now. "Nothing," I said, a little too quickly, my heart racing. But deep down, I knew. He was already thinking the same thing I was. The rest of breakfast was tense. His mother sipped her tea, humming quietly, while he avoided looking at her. Every bite he took seemed mechanical, almost forced. I could see the anxiety building behind his eyes, a storm waiting to break. Then, as if on cue, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling. It's from the lab," he muttered under his breath. I leaned in, but he shut the screen too quickly. "What lab? What's happening?" He shook his head, running his hands through his hair. I can't, not yet. Not until I know she's okay." A chill ran down my spine. His mother, still smiling faintly, looked at him knowingly, like she already understood something we didn't. I tried to keep the conversation casual, asking about the usual morning routines, but every word felt hollow. The air was thick with unspoken fear, and I could see it in his eyes, panic growing by the second. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. "I have to go," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "I'll explain later." I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Please," I whispered, "tell me what's going on." His eyes met mine one last time, filled with a mix of dread and desperation. "Just stay here, don't touch anything. Don't let her drink anything else." And then he was gone, the front door slamming behind him with a force that echoed in my chest. I turned to his mother. She was still sitting there, calm, serene, but there was something in her eyes, something that didn't belong. A secret, a warning, a promise that I couldn't yet decipher. I had no idea that the next few hours would change everything, that the juice, seemingly innocent, would unravel our lives, exposing truths I wasn't ready to face. And as I stood there staring at the empty glass, a shiver ran down my spine. Something inside me whispered that nothing would ever be the same again. The door slammed, leaving the house eerily quiet. I stood frozen, staring at his mother. She hadn't moved, still perched in her chair like a statue, a faint, unreadable smile playing on her lips. I wanted to ask questions, to demand answers, but the words stuck in my throat. Something about the way she looked at me made my stomach twist. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, and beneath her calm exterior, I could sense a hidden storm. I heard the faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock. It all seemed louder than normal. My mind raced. What was in that juice? Why had he panicked so suddenly? And why had his mother seemed unaffected? Then my phone buzzed. A message from him flashed on the screen. "Do not let her out of your sight. Trust no one. Call me if anything seems wrong." I swallowed hard. Trust no one? That included him or everyone else? My heart began to pound. I grabbed the glass she had drunk from, inspecting it as if it would reveal the secret within. It looked harmless, just orange juice, ordinary and bright, but my gut screamed that it wasn't. I turned to her. "Did you feel anything unusual?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. She tilted her head, her smile widening just enough to make my skin crawl. "Nothing at all. I feel perfectly fine," she said, her tone deceptively calm. I knew she was lying, or maybe not lying, but hiding something. Something powerful, something dangerous. Suddenly I heard a faint knock at the door. My pulse spiked. Who would come at this hour? I glanced at his mother. She made no move, no reaction. It was almost as if she had been expecting it. I crept to the door and peeked through the peephole. A figure stood in the dim light of the hallway outside. A man, tall, and his face obscured by shadow. My first instinct was to scream, but something in me held back. The figure lifted a hand and tapped again. Before I could react, his voice came through the intercom, low and urgent. "It's me, let me in. I can't stay outside long." Relief mixed with fear. I opened the door and he slipped inside, closing it quietly behind him. My husband looked different, haggard, pale, like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes darted around the room, as if measuring every possible danger. "They know," he whispered. "They know what we're trying to hide." I froze. "Who knows? What are you talking about?" He shook his head violently. "I can't say here, not yet. But something's wrong with the juice. The lab, something went wrong, and now they're watching us." My heart sank. "Watching us? Who?" His hands trembled as he pulled me closer, lowering his voice. "Her, my mother. She's not who we think she is. That juice, it was a test, and she passed." I stumbled back, disbelief mixing with fear. "Passed? Passed what?" "Passed her obedience. Her loyalty. And if she wants, she could destroy everything we have in seconds. That juice wasn't meant for her, it was meant for us." The air in the room grew thick, oppressive. I glanced at her, and for the first time, I saw a glimmer of something dark beneath her calm exterior, like a predator watching prey. "I need to get more information," he muttered, his jaw tight. "I have to call the lab, see what exactly was in that juice. If we're going to survive this, we need to know everything." Before I could protest, the lights flickered. A cold draft swept through the room. His mother didn't move, didn't flinch, but I could feel it, a warning. Suddenly my husband stiffened. His phone buzzed again. A new message appeared. It wasn't from the lab. "You're too late. She's already begun." His face went pale, his hands gripping mine so tightly it hurt. "We have to leave," he whispered. Right now, I looked at his mother. She was still smiling, serene as ever, but this time there was a glint in her eye. A glint that spoke of power, of secrets I wasn't ready to uncover. And as we stepped toward the door, I felt it. The calm before a storm, the moment before everything changes. Something told me that once we left this room, nothing would ever be the same again. The cliffhanger. They are about to leave, but his mother already knows their every move. The danger is closing in. We barely made it out the front door. My husband's hands gripped mine tightly as we stepped into the cool morning air, the sunlight unable to warm the icy fear settling in my chest. Every shadow seemed deeper, every sound sharper. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Somewhere safe," he replied, his eyes scanning every window, every corner of the street. "We can't go home, not yet." I nodded, though I had no idea where safe could possibly be. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a persistent thought kept creeping in. The juice. What was really in it? And why had it caused him to panic so much? We walked in silence until we reached a small, nondescript car parked a few blocks away. My husband opened the door and ushered me inside. As soon as we were seated, he started the engine and drove off, his eyes darting nervously to the rearview mirror. "We need to figure out exactly what's going on," he said finally, his voice low. "The lab, my mother, they're connected in ways I can't even begin to explain yet. That juice, it was just the beginning." My mind raced. "Connected how?" I asked. "Why? What are they hiding?" He shook his head. "It's not just a drink, it's a catalyst, something that can manipulate the body and mind. It's experimental, highly dangerous, and someone's using it as a test." I felt my stomach drop. "Someone? You mean your mother?" His gaze fell to the dashboard. "She's not just my mother, she's part of it. Part of a group that controls things from behind the scenes. Powerful things. And that juice, it wasn't just for tasting. It was a measure of trust, of control. And she passed." I swallowed hard. "Passed? Meaning what?" He looked at me, eyes haunted. "Meaning she can decide who lives, who dies, and who suffers. That juice gave her a power we can't even begin to fight, at least not now." The car fell silent, the weight of his words settling over us. Outside, the world seemed normal, oblivious to the danger we were in. But inside the car, every second felt like a countdown to disaster. Then his phone buzzed. A message appeared from an unknown number. "You can't hide. She knows, she always knows. My husband's hands shook as he read it. It's her, he muttered. She's tracking us. Always. I felt a cold fear claw at my chest. Then what do we do? I whispered. He slammed the steering wheel with his palm. We fight, we find out the truth. We figure out what's in that juice, and we stop it before it's too late. We arrived at a small, secluded building on the outskirts of the city, a nondescript lab, seemingly abandoned. He parked and dragged me inside, checking every corner before closing the door behind us. Inside, the lab was quiet, sterile, and ominous. Papers were scattered across desks, computers hummed faintly, and the faint smell of chemicals lingered in the air. It was as if the building itself was holding its breath, waiting for us. He turned to me, his expression grim. The information we need is here. Somewhere in these files, the lab developed the juice. They tested it on people, and it wasn't supposed to reach her, my mother. But it did, I shivered. And now she has the power? He nodded slowly. Exactly. And if she decides to manipulate it, no one can stop her. Not me, not anyone. That's why we need to move fast. We need evidence, we need a way to counter it, and we need to understand how it works before it's too late. Hours passed as we combed through files, lab reports, and videos. Every revelation made my stomach churn. The juice wasn't just a drink. It was a precise chemical formula designed to alter behavior, enhance certain traits, and suppress others. It could make someone more compliant, or completely uncontrollable. My hands trembled as I opened it. The images were grainy but unmistakable. My husband's mother in a lab setting, consuming the juice, her vitals monitored, her reactions recorded. And the notes? The notes said, my husband's face went pale. She's been groomed for this, he whispered. This wasn't an accident. She's been engineered to be untouchable. And now she's free. I felt a chill that ran straight through my bones. The woman I thought was just his elderly mother was something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something I wasn't prepared to face. Suddenly, the door to the lab creaked. We froze. Footsteps approached. Someone else was inside. Before we could react, a shadow appeared in the doorway, tall, imposing, and unmistakably familiar. His mother. She smiled. Looking for answers? She asked, her voice calm, almost playful. I think you found more than you're ready for. My husband grabbed my hand, pulling me back. Run, he whispered, but the instinct in her eyes told me. It might already be too late. Cliffhanger. They've uncovered the shocking truth about the juice, but his mother is already in the lab, waiting. The real confrontation is about to begin. The lab was silent for a moment that felt like an eternity. My husband's mother stood in the doorway, her posture deceptively relaxed, but the aura around her screamed danger. Every instinct in me told me to run, but I was frozen, part fear, part disbelief. You shouldn't have come here, she said softly, almost a whisper, yet it echoed through the room like a warning bell. My husband stepped in front of me, shielding me instinctively. We needed to know, he said, his voice trembling but defiant. We needed to know what you've become, what they turned you into. She tilted her head, her smile unsettling. Turned me? Oh, darling, I've always been like this. They just refined me, enhanced me, and now I can see everything. Everyone's intentions, every lie, every fear. Your fear, delicious. I swallowed hard, realizing for the first time just how much power she truly had. The juice hadn't just been a test. It had been a key, unlocking her abilities, sharpening her instincts, making her untouchable. You can't control her, I shouted, panic rising. Whatever this is, it's dangerous. Her gaze flicked to me, sharp as a blade. Dangerous? Oh, my dear, I am danger. And yet, here you are, standing in my house, in my lab, thinking you have a chance to stop me. My husband's hands clenched into fists. We have to try, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Because if you decide to experiment with the juice outside these walls, countless lives will be at risk. And I can't let that happen. Her eyes sparkled, not with fear, but with amusement. Lives? Oh, you think in terms of life and death. But the juice, it's a tool, a test of will, loyalty, and intelligence. And anyone who crosses me pays the price. I could feel it, the tension crackling in the air, thick and suffocating. Then in a sudden motion, she stepped closer, her movements almost predatory. You two are fascinating, she said, circling us slowly. You think you understand, but you don't. You think you can fight me, but I've seen every possibility. I know every choice you'll make before you do. My heart pounded. Then what do we do? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. She paused, her gaze locking onto my husband. You, she said, pointing at him, were my favorite experiment. The one I thought would succeed where others failed. But you faltered, afraid to take control, afraid to face me. And yet, you came here, risking everything. Interesting. His face tightened with anger and fear. You've manipulated everything. My life, our lives, all of it. She smiled again, serene and terrifying. Manipulation? Call it guidance. I simply steer the currents while the others float along. But you swim against me. And that makes this moment deliciously unpredictable. I felt the floor shift beneath me, not literally, but emotionally. The realization hit me. This wasn't just about the juice. This was a battle of wills, a war of intellect, and my husband and I were in the middle of it. Then she spoke a single sentence that made my blood run cold. Do you know why the juice was never meant for me? We shook our heads, unable to speak. Because, she said softly, I was never meant to be controlled, only observed. And now that you've discovered the truth, you must decide, do you run or do you join me? My husband's hands trembled as he gripped mine. We don't join you, he said firmly. No matter what it takes, we stop this. We protect people from becoming like you. Her smile widened, almost sadistic. Ah, courage. Brave, foolish, but admirable. Very well. She reached for a small vial on the counter, a dark, almost black liquid. If you think you can resist, you must try. This is the final test. But remember, only one of us will leave this lab unchanged. Time seemed to stretch as she advanced. My husband instinctively stepped between us, but I could see it. Her confidence, her calm, her knowledge of our every move. This wasn't just a mother against her son or a family feud. This was something far darker, far more calculated. Suddenly, alarms blared in the lab. Red lights flashed. The building shook slightly, and the air filled with the faint scent of chemicals. She paused, just for a moment, her eyes flicking to the ceiling. They're coming, she whispered, and they want the formula back. But we will decide its fate first. Panic surged through me. Who's coming? What is this? Her laughter echoed, chilling and beautiful at the same time. Power doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't wait for the timid. It comes for those who dare touch it. And now it comes for you. The ground beneath us vibrated, the walls seemed to pulse with energy, and suddenly the lab doors burst open. Figures in black moved like shadows, precise, deadly, and relentless. My husband grabbed my hand. Run, he shouted. We fight or we run, but we survive. And in that moment, I understood the terrifying truth. The juice had been just the beginning. What we were facing now was war. The lab is under attack. His mother is calm and powerful. The intruders are approaching, and my husband and I must fight or escape. But survival is far from guaranteed. The lab erupted into chaos. Shadows moved like predators, their black uniforms blending with the flashing red alarms. Sparks flew from the walls as machinery overloaded, and the pungent smell of chemicals stung my nose. My husband's mother stood calm, almost serene, in the middle of the storm, her eyes cold, calculating, yet tinged with an almost eerie amusement. She held the vial of black liquid like a weapon, her posture radiating absolute control. We don't have time, my husband shouted, grabbing my hand. We need to get to the control room. There's a failsafe we can use. I nodded, adrenaline surging through me. Together, we ran through the corridors, dodging the intruders. Each step felt like a battle, each corner hiding unknown threats. The lab, once a place of sterile knowledge, now felt like a war zone. As we reached the control room, my husband slammed his hand onto the main console, typing furiously. If we can override the security protocols, we can lock the intruders out, he yelled. Outside, the sounds of combat intensified. His mother's laughter echoed faintly through the halls, calm amid chaos. It chilled me to the bone. She wasn't just surviving this attack, she was orchestrating it. The console beeped. Locked, my husband shouted triumphantly. Now we can... A sudden shadow filled the doorway. His mother stepped inside, her expression unreadable. The vial in her hand glimmered ominously under the red light. You think locking doors will stop the inevitable? She said softly. Power isn't in walls. It's in the mind, in the will. And you have yet to understand that. My husband stepped forward, defiance blazing in his eyes. We understand more than you think. That juice, your power, it doesn't have to control us. We can fight back, her eyes narrowed. Fight back? You've only seen the surface. Do you know what I've become? Do you know what it took to survive all these years? Before he could answer, she moved with supernatural speed. The vial shattered in her hand, releasing a dark mist that swirled around us, suffocating and sharp. My throat burned, my vision blurred. "Focus!" my husband shouted. "Remember what you learned, the failsafe." I reached instinctively for the emergency override button beside the console. The red mist thickened, curling around her, but the moment my hand pressed down, alarms blared differently, a higher pitch. The lab's final failsafe had been activated. The building shuddered violently. Lights flickered and sparks shot from the ceiling. The mist began to pull back, as if being drawn into the machinery. His mother's eyes widened in shock, her control slipping for the first time. "No!" she screamed, a sound both human and terrifying. The power that had always seemed untouchable faltered, as the failsafe drained it from the environment, neutralizing her advantage. My husband grabbed me, pulling me away as the lab convulsed. The intruders outside froze, their own mission thrown into chaos by the failsafe. The building's automated systems began sealing critical sections, isolating her from the controls. She stumbled, the supernatural calm gone, replaced with rage and disbelief. "You think you've won? This isn't over. I will return, stronger, smarter, unstoppable." But in that moment, I saw the truth. She was still human beneath it all. The juice, the experiments, the calculated power. They had given her advantage, yes, but not invincibility. She could be challenged, she could be stopped. The lab systems finally stabilized. The red mist dissipated. The intruders retreated, confused, frustrated, and in the silence that followed, my husband and I stood together, bruised, terrified, but alive. He turned to me, exhaustion and relief mixing in his eyes. "It's over, for now." I nodded, my hands shaking. "For now," I repeated, knowing deep down that this was just one battle in a war that might never truly end. We left the lab behind, the sun rising over the city. Its golden light contrasted sharply with the shadows we'd escaped. And though we were free, for the moment, I couldn't shake the memory of her eyes, the dangerous calm, the promise that the story wasn't finished. We had survived, but the world had changed. Power like hers didn't vanish overnight, and somewhere, in the shadows, she was already planning her return. And I knew one terrifying truth. Next time, we might not be so lucky. The immediate threat is neutralized, but the story leaves a lingering sense of danger and suspense. The mother remains a looming threat, keeping the story's tension alive for future chapters or continuation.